We gotta call you up. Meeting is now in session. I introduce Toastmaster today, Karen Walker, who's the Toastmaster today. Please come up.
Thank you, Sergeant of Arms. Welcome, Twinbrook Toastmasters, as we are celebrating our 34th anniversary as a club. I'm especially happy to have official new members, Kwame and Rafael, who have put in their paperwork, gotten their materials, and are all set to go. The mission of Toastmasters as a club is we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and self-growth. We have a full agenda today. We are going to move on to have some inspiration to warm up our audience. So let's welcome up Kwame to give a little brief story of inspiration to share with the group.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I don't claim to have clairvoyant powers, but I'm going to make a prediction today about all of you. You will all have problems. There might be problems in your personal lives, problems in your professional lives, problems in your relationships, or any other aspect of your life. But one thing that is guaranteed is that you will always encounter problems. I know, this is supposed to be an inspirational speech, and I'm going to get to it. So let's get to it. The first step when you encounter a problem, at least when I encounter a problem, is to replace the word problem with challenge. According to dictionary.com, a problem is defined as any question or matter involving doubt, uncertainty, or difficulty. Challenge, on the other hand, is defined as a call or summons to engage in any contest as of skill, strength, or will. Same words, different meanings. In other words, a problem presents doubt, uncertainty, and difficulty. But a challenge is an opportunity for us to show our competitive edge, skill, strength, and will. Moving forward, resolve to look at every problem as a challenge, and you'll be amazed at how much better you'll be able to handle situations as they come up. As soon as you feel that there's a problem, put on your thinking cap. Think about, how can I solve this issue? How can I deal with it? Most of the times when we face problems, we quickly indulge in self-pity, self-doubt. We decide to dwell more on the problem than think of the solution. So whenever an issue occurs, always remember that a problem is really just a challenge. Another thing that I like to think about when I face problems is the word serendipity. Serendipity is described as a fortunate mistake or a lucky accident. The word serendipity was actually derived from a story from the three princes of Serendip. And these princes always seemed to find fortunate solutions, and every time they found a problem, there was always some good thing that happened whenever they encountered a problem. You need to look at your life that way. Whenever something bad is happening, think about the universe as conspiring for your own good. And it's up to you to investigate and look around and change your perspective to determine exactly why that challenge or problem is in your path, and make it your goal to overcome that, no matter what it is. Think about it. Think about your worst and greatest challenges that you faced till now. The hardest, most challenging thing you've ever faced. You're all still here, aren't you?
Right.
So when there's a problem, why don't you just fast forward it and say, hey, in the next month, the next year, the next two, things are going to get okay. Things are going to be better. When you're in the moment, it is very easy for you to think of all the bad and negative emotions that come with whatever you're facing. But we usually forget to actually think that, like other problems and challenges we faced in life, this too shall pass. I'd like to end with a quote by Dr. Abdul Kalam. Difficulties in your life do not come to destroy you, but to help you release your hidden potential and power. Let difficulties know that you too are difficult.
Thank you. Thank you, Kwame.
Beautiful.
That was wonderful. That was very inspiring. Next on our agenda, we have one of our new members who received his materials and is working on the Competent Communication Manual. He's going to do his icebreaker, which is project number 1. It's 4 to 6 minutes. The timer is situated right here. At 4 minutes, you will see a green card, meaning you've reached your minimum speaking time. At 5 minutes, Alan will show a yellow card. And at 6 minutes, he will show red, meaning you should be done. You can end before you see red. You can end anytime after you see green. You want to be in a 4 to 6 minute range. So let's welcome up Rafael as he presents his first speech for the group, the icebreaker speech. Come on up, Rafael. Sure. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, a brand new Toastmaster member. And today my first speech is about myself. What could be more easy for me to talk about myself, since I know me better than anybody else? So, who am I? I was born in Colombia. Colombia, as you may know, is located in South America, and our common language is Spanish. I am the only male of a family of 3. And I also the survivor, because I was the youngest. Since my early childhood, I was always willing to become a medical doctor or a lawyer. Finally, I decided to become a lawyer because the time to spend in the university was less than to become a medical doctor. So I became a lawyer, and I was appointed by the government to become a judge, a criminal judge. So I was appointed to several towns close to the capital. To be a criminal judge in Colombia is very difficult, especially if you have to deal with the drug dealers and with also at the guerrilla movement, which is, a left-wing guerrilla movement. However, I think I did my job, and until it was a point that I couldn't take it any longer, because the government's decisions as well as the judicial sentence were always in favor of them. They do adhere, a coercion to the government office in order to produce for them what they want. The government was aware that the people were very unhappy with this kind of system, and they decided to do an investigation to see the equality or inequality of wealth. We came to the conclusion that 10% of the population own 90% of the land. As you can see, I'm talking about 1966, 1968. The inequality was obvious, clear. And the people who suffered more were the peasants and the poor. So the government engaged themselves in an agrarian reform. I thought an opportunity for me to jump and work in that program. The program was done by the Agriculture Department in Colombia, so I became an attorney to them. However, as an attorney, I was the executioner of that particular law. So I gained so many enemies in that position, and I decided to come to America. I applied in the Catholic University in order to study English. The reason for me was because if I go back to Colombia, it would be easy for me to work over there by the State Department and then travel around the world. But unfortunately, I fell in love with an American. I just started a new family, and I became a law aide in a law office to deal with immigration problems. I worked there for several years, and then I worked with the government, and I retired from the government in 2009. And here I'm an American, and happy to be here. I'm retired and using my spare time to travel around the world. This is it.
There you see how easy it is to get started in Toastmasters. Your first project, 4 to 6 minutes, blows by so quickly.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing a little bit more about you, and we look forward to future speeches where you probably will go more into some of your experiences. Thank you, Rafael. Our next portion of the meeting, we will be using our critical thinking skills and our impromptu speaking experience, and that's something that we hope to improve on. It's probably one of the most challenging areas is to be posed a question that you're not expecting coming your way and putting together a very eloquent, concise answer that makes sense. Maybe it has a little opening sentence, a little body explaining your answer, and then a little closing sentence on the end. But it's something that we're going to practice now with table topics. We have a wonderful table topics master, so let's welcome up Ken to handle our table topics portion of 1 to 2 minutes for each participant.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster of the Day. Fellow Toastmasters, let me first say congratulations to the two new additions. Your speeches were spectacular. I'm going to jump right into it. I have a bunch of questions. I would need some volunteers. A volunteer?
You be a volunteer.
Sure. Okay.
Come on, man.
Okay, so this is a very general question, and just take it and run with it how you please. When it's all said and done, will you have said more than you have done?
Very nice.
That's a great question. One of my fears, when I think about it, is going too soon. Is not being able to leave behind the legacy that I hope to my family and to the people that I love. I am a very ambitious person. One of the things that I'm actually very proud of is the fact that I moved to the United States back in 1999. Pretty much didn't have anything. And I've been able to work over the years to get to a pretty good part of my life, in terms of my career and everything else. And in 2008, I was finally able to work with my father to build a school back in Ghana, where we're from. I pretty much depleted all my savings in order to put that school together. But for me, that was very important. Growing up, we didn't have a lot of computers, we didn't have a lot of infrastructure. So that was something that was really important to me. I'm happy and proud that I was able to do that. but my goal is really to do a whole lot more. So in the end, my biggest regret really would be that I just haven't had a chance to give the world the most that I can do.
Perfect. Thank you, Kwame. And I think the question, so the way I read it was probably not the right way. It should have been, when all is said and done, when it's all said and done, would you have done more than you have said instead of would you have said more? But I think you got the context and I understand the right way, so perfect. All right, moving on. We have another question.
Yeah. Me,
Yeah.
want to volunteer?
Okay, Rafael, there we go. Great.
If you had the chance to go back in time and change one thing, what would it be?
What a wonderful question. If I had the chance to go back in time and change the things that they already are, it would be like in my presentation to become a medical doctor instead of a lawyer. And the reason is because as a medical doctor in Ghana and any country, you are a medical doctor here. All you have to do is to pass the bar. However, as a lawyer, it's completely different. You are a lawyer somewhere, you come to America, you are nobody here because your law is completely different, which is not the same in the medicine because your body is the same as my body. So if I have to change, I will do that. I will probably come back with my culture instead of just coming along. That means I will come back, I will not come back, but I will come to America with a Colombian wife and probably Colombian children. That's it.
Perfect. That's so true. Actually, I'm from Nigeria, and a lot of the folks that want to study law here, our cousins and relatives, that want to study law here are always fraught with the same challenge. Should they go into it knowing that they eventually will move back home and may not be able to continue law there?
Right. It's a difficult thing.
Absolutely. All right. This is a good one.
Is
Who
it
wants
that
to try
good?
it?
Ken?
Yeah, we don't have too many people left, so.
Alan, you want to try it?
Someone's got to do the timing.
Okay, I'll do the
Sounds
timing.
good.
We can switch off.
All right.
1 to 2 minutes.
All right, Alan. Do you own your things? Or do your things own you?
Interesting topic. Do I own my things? Do my things own me? Essentially, I think I don't let my possessions and what I gained take control of my life. I still follow my religion every day. I go to every Shabbat, keep all the holidays and everything, and keep kosher. And I'm always willing to. I'm a staunch pro-Israel supporter. I know the problems we're having now, we've had for the last 4,000 years. The last 66, we got our nation reestablished after 2,000 years of being spread over the world. And in 66 years of Israel, progress as far as the United States took over 100 years to progress to. Their high technology, and when they came there in the 1940s, it's practically nothing there, wasteland, nothing there. The desert bloomed, they rebuilt all the cities, and they became a lead technological power. A lot of the things even like electronic things, all stuff are kind of Israel now. A lot of the key inventions are kind of out of Israel now. They're constantly trying to protect themselves when people want to destroy them. They've been wanting to destroy them for years and years. They managed to get it by, which is good.
You get it?
Because I think the strong believe we're getting help, like when we do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Alan. There's a saying, more money, more problems. And obviously that sort of alludes to the notion that, anyone who's who has possessions knows that they have to do a lot to keep those possessions. If it's a car you have to maintain the car. So all the care and attention you show to this car, I mean, do you really own the car, or does the car own you, taking up all your time? So thank you very much, Alan. All right, I have a couple more.
Should we do one more?
Well, since I have a couple and we have only two.
Yeah. Okay, we can squeeze it in.
Sure.
Okay, I'll be the next person.
Thank you so much.
Okay. If you want to count my ons. Here, I'll put them right here.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. All right.
You really picked a special one.
I'm debating between two.
All right.
How do you know when it's time to continue holding on, or when it's time to let go?
Very thought-provoking question. How do I know when it's time to keep holding on or time to let go? It's a difficult question because it depends on the situation a lot of times. Sometimes in life you just grow, and so well, that part of my life is over. I'm in this stage now, so these are things I need to let go of. For instance, my daughter is 6, and she is not a fan of Barbies. And when I was a young girl, I loved Barbies. I wanted to hold on to being entertained with Barbies for a long time. And it really saddens me because I thought now as a mother it would be my chance to kind of look at Barbies and the clothes again, but no, she's not interested, and my time has passed for that. That's something I have to let go of. Certain things may involve a stage in our life when we're in school and going through our education. Maybe it's a hobby, interest, clubs, even friendships sometimes. And I think when it's with friendships, that can be very difficult. We all have different paths we take, and we may have a friend who's on that journey with us on that path for a while, maybe even a long time. I have friends I've had for 30 years, and then I have friends that come into my life for a short time. I'm not sure that we're actually letting go, or we're just maybe going a different route. We've got different directions that we're going to take. Overall, the concept of letting go can be a difficult one because it feels like you're losing something. I'm letting this go. But on the other hand, letting go of things that aren't good for us, that are maybe toxic or unhealthy for us, that is always good to be let go of. And it's a freedom. You're freeing yourself from something that's unhealthy for you. I'm not sure I answered the question exactly right. I think it's maybe an intuitive thing that you just know when it's time to move on, when it's time to keep persevering in an area. You just have to listen to your inner voice. Thank you, Ken.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much, Karen. The reason I was hesitant there for a minute is because the other question actually is similar, but it actually speaks about love, when to let go of love with someone versus, but I figured I'd just keep it.
Play it safe.
Play it safe. By the way,
thanks. Okay.
I also have a little girl,
Mm-hmm.
a little younger than yours. Just FYI, the new fad is Dora. No, it's no more Barbie. I think Barbie's time was past.
Yeah, Dora's big.
So, one final question.
I guess it's yours, Coretta.
Yes.
Yes. Great, come on up.
Last but not least. Beyond all the titles that others have given you, who are you?
I am Coretta.
That's the title.
Coretta is, I think, a very interesting person with a very interesting life, with very interesting people in her life, and very interesting adventures. Coretta is someone who loves her family very, very much. I recently spoke to my son, who is in the Navy and left for a 2-year tour to Japan. I'm an advisor too, so to speak. You're an advisor when you're a mother, so I'm an advisor. We had a special, I don't know if it was an incident or event with him, and it involved a young lady that he thought he would want to get engaged to. So we had to think very careful on how we responded to him, because that wasn't a reason to get engaged. That was the bottom line. He wanted to get engaged. And I thought, well, this is not any reason to get engaged. That was a very difficult situation for us, because I think he wanted our advice, but I don't think he particularly enjoyed the advice we gave him. But that's a part of life, and that's a part of what I and my husband are to him, and is an advisor as well as a mother. That's it.
Thank you so much. Coretta as an advisor. I think I'm taking back to the last speech that you gave, Coretta. I think it was an inspirational speech where you talked about the relativity of time and how holding a glass for a minute is different from an hour. I mean, the heaviness is different from holding it, for an hour, 24 hours, etc., etc. That was very great advice, by the way. So, notion of just being able to let things go. That was very sound. And so we have come to the end of table topics. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Always a tremendous job with very extremely deep and thought-provoking questions. Those are questions that any of us could take and actually do a 5 to 7 minute speech on, with specific life examples, and really expand on that. Thank you. There was one that you did the last time for me. I was thinking about how I answered that for a couple days, and I was thinking about the question that someone else got posed, and how I was thinking about that and how I was going to answer that. It was really good for my brain activity for the week, because it got me thinking about some life situations I was analyzing. So I appreciate your effort at doing the table topics questions. The rest of our meeting, we have an evaluator, and then we'll have our timekeeper report and odd counter report, and then we'll wrap things up. Coretta Jefferson is going to give some feedback and evaluation on this icebreaker that Rafael did. So welcome up, Coretta Jefferson.
In this speech, the icebreaker, the new member is to introduce himself or herself to the club and begin speaking before an audience. The speech should have a clear beginning, a body, and an ending. The speaker has been advised to use notes if necessary, and not to be concerned with gestures, be encouraging, and point out the speaker's strong points while gently and kindly, that's what my job is, to gently and kindly mention areas that could be improved. I think the strong points of Rafael's speech was that he spoke about himself. An icebreaker doesn't necessarily have to be about yourself, but most icebreakers are, because that's what you should be most comfortable about what you're speaking about. You did have notes, but I did notice that you didn't rely upon those notes. You spoke about yourself. Sometimes notes, you can write a lot in your notes and just lose track of them, of what you want to say, and you will just begin to speak. But I noticed that at times you kind of I found, at times, I found myself being very interested in what you were saying concerning your life in Colombia before coming here. I would have liked to see, the one recommendation I would have with that particular thing would have been that you would have expounded more about you and your family. Because I would have liked to know more about your family, and in fact, the country of Colombia. You expounded on some of the negatives about it with your job, but I believe that there probably are a lot of positive aspects in your country that I would have liked to hear about. You did speak clearly and audibly. I could understand that. I think the one thing that I would also caution you about is to do more practicing when you do your speech. Because for me, just like when Alan puts up those cards, you get nervous. And then you try to say things and then you lose track of what you're saying. So you've got to somehow put that out of your mind and just continue on in your speech. But overall, I enjoyed your speech. I did think that we did become... we did know about you, what you told us about your life before coming here. So overall, I think your first speech was very good, and I would encourage you to keep it up. Don't stop.
It was a fine job at evaluating. Now we have our timer report. This is the person who is to keep us on schedule, and you hear the little beeps at each interval. So please, Alan, come on up and let us know how we did on our time today.
Our day was good, very, but I say within the range. Statistics, Kwame, on your first sale topic was 1 minute and 31 seconds. That's in the range. Rafael, on your table topic, that was 1 minute and 5 seconds. Of course, I spent 1 minute and 18 seconds on mine. Table topic. Carry on table topic was 2:03. And correct table topic was 1:46. On the required speech, on your speech, Rafael, it was 4 to 6. You did it in 4:47. Correct on evaluation was 2:55. That's a time report today. Very good time report today.
Thank you. Thanks, Alan. Fine job. Our last report will be from one of our favorites, our counter, to tell us how we did with all of our filler words, ahs and ums. So let's welcome up Ken.
All right, so we have the Toastmaster of the day, Karen, with 6 O's. Inspiration speech of the day, Kwame. We have 4 ums, 1 and 1 repeat. There was a thing you did, a cough sort of, like I'm not sure how to interpret that as an R or no. Humorist, corrector, 1 repeat. That's it.
Oh, table topics.
Table topics.
Yes.
Yeah.
The curved ones are all the table topics.
Got it. Okay, says TT. All right. So that was for table topics. And for Rafael, speaker 1, we have 2 so's, 1 2 ums, 2 ers, and 1 repeat. We have Ken, 1 for table topics. We have Kwame, table topics, 1 and, 1 ah. Rafael, table topics, 1 so and 1 Alan, table topics, 2 ahs. Coretta, table topics, 1 1 r, and 2 r's and 1 repeat. I'm sorry, that last one for Coretta was its evaluation.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Good to know. Let me ask you a question, in all honesty. Does it help you to know about these things, or does it somewhat injure your pride or self-image? Do you feel a little ting like, oh, they're criticizing me? Or do you feel like, hey, I guess I have these areas that within my communication and I'm going to improve and I'm going to use less so's. I'm going to make sure I avoid the ums and maybe just pause instead. Does it help you?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You never really think of how many you do.
Right, exactly.
It's precisely that.
Do it.
You're not aware until you hear someone's actually listening and counting me.
And when you're listening to the news, for example, on TV, you'll see those people doing that. Oh,
And that's another thing.
you know, and you say something like that, you know. I mean,
Become more aware of.
they are not aware of those things. They do it on TV.
It's surprising because they're professionals, that's their career,
Yeah.
and they still
They
can
do.
fall short in
Right.
using those filler words.
If you're going to talk, you always hear a lot of you knows. Like, anywhere if someone talking at a system, a sort of topic, or conference, whatever,
Yeah,
sermon, whatever, you hear a lot of
You know.
you knows a lot of times.
yes, you do.
And sometimes some doesn't. And so
Our next meeting is May 22nd. I'm going to pass this around in case anyone wants to sign up. We have the website. You can go on the website, but if the spirit is hitting you now, we already have our table topic, our Toastmaster and 2 speakers that are already on the agenda. They've signed up ahead of time. But if you find that on May 22nd you want to fulfill a role, go ahead and write your name down. We'll update the agenda. Now, if there's anything, we'll just go around real quick. If there's any comments that you have about today's meeting.
And remember
you'd
that
like to
you
share.
asked me if I could probably put one of those flyers that you sent into the
Oh, yeah,
library.
I do.
Yeah, I could. However, you have to give me a presentation, like a Rafael Merriman representative, so I can give it to them and they put it there.
Oh, okay.
Because that's the reason I joined that group. Because I
Right.
was using the library.
Yeah, that's so great.
Why don't invite a whole lot of people? As a matter of fact, the library is full of people who are retired
Mm-hmm.
and they are looking to do something,
Mm-hmm.
something constructive. And,
Right.
This is a very constructive thing. To
Exactly.
be able to express themselves in a clear and concise way.
Is there any comments, suggestions, compliments you want to give today's meeting? We'll start with Alan.
we had a good meeting, and we start late. We had a lot of things to cover that I think were important. And it went pretty good.
Okay.
I believe, considering the amount of people who are here, I believe we made the best of it. I thought everybody did really well. Everybody pitched in. Every table topics. They always, let you think. It's true. As she said, when I usually go home, I think about it again and said, oh, I could have answered this better, or I could have answered it differently. So it's very thought-provoking. So thank you.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
Coretta?
I always think no matter how small the group, that's probably the best learning, the best time to learn and for me, make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think whatever recommendations for better speeches, they're always positive. And I think I always appreciate those because how can we learn and get better how we wouldn't be in here if we weren't making mistakes and weren't wanting to be a better speaker. So we should be, we should know that there are things, for me, there are things that I know I have to improve on, and I appreciate that people tell me that. Otherwise, I wouldn't know that.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and another thing that we learned from out here is not to feel offended because other people point, the mistake that you make. Is on the contrary, you feel good about it. Because in the future, you will avoid that as much as you can.
Exactly. That's a very good point.
It's just a feedback on what Coretta was saying about a small group, and even though it's small, you still do develop a sense of confidence. When I first joined, I used to think that my level of confidence was proportionate to the size of the room. And when I first joined, it was a small group, and subsequent meetings were all small, and I got a chance to get up front there and speak a lot, such that when I did give that speech on the 10th, the room was surprisingly full. And, I thought that was going to throw me off, but I just sort of blanked myself. I went up there and I just felt the same thing and I just delivered. So I think it's the repetitiveness of just being up there regardless of how many people are in the room. It does help.
Absolutely. I think that's true for me. In the beginning, regardless of how many people, it was just the thought of being in front of a group. So I would feel the butterflies or nervousness within myself. It was not obvious to anybody. It was just a personal experience that I was having. But the more every meeting, I would say to myself, okay, this meeting you'll give a speech, maybe the next meeting you'll serve on that role. Just being in front, and now it's second nature when you come up front, because after I've doing it so many times and you have that practice and familiarity with what it feels like to be in front of the group and how your brain is working to formulate the words you're going to say and all of that, it really becomes second nature. So it's very helpful to practice and grow and get better. And what Coretta said about, and Rafael, when people are pointing out things that you wouldn't notice about yourself. I've been in some meetings where they pointed something out so small, but yet there's a better way. And one of them, which I remember because it was such a small thing, the person was giving a speech about a book. And as they held the book, they just kind of showed it and put it away. And the evaluator says, when you're going to show something, show it. And then you put it away too quickly. You kind of just threw it up there and put it away. Well, if you're going to use a visual aid, use the visual aid. Give them a moment to see and absorb what it is, and then put it down. It's such a small thing. Like, you wouldn't even think about that.
Right.
But it stuck with me. I said, okay, note to self.
Sure,
when I show something, I should give it at least a pause as a moment or a brief second up there so people can see what I'm showing and not quickly show it. They blanked and now they missed it. There's a lot of little tips you learn along the way. Very successful meeting. I look forward to seeing you guys in 2 weeks on May 22nd. Join us again, and I'm sure we'll have some other folks back that missed this week. So thanks, everyone, for all your participation.
Thank you.
Alan, you want to do the gavel?
Means nothing.